I'm beginning to think that there's something wrong with me. My last two partners have cheated on me. The first was a very serious relationship. We lived together, we talked about marriage and buying a house. He even took 2 pictures of us as kids and photoshopped them together to show what our kids might look like one day. I walked in on him sleeping with my stepsister. Now she's pregnant, due in the near future, and he's with her. I know he's not happy. I know he regrets what he did. I know that he loved me. And none of that stopped him from fucking my stepsister in our bed. I've spent so long now being upset at her and writing him off as just a bad decision that I wasted time on, but now I find myself mourning what we had. My stepsister and I grew up together and have loved each other most of our lives, so it felt like that was the betrayal. But he and I chose each other. Out of all the people on the earth, we looked each other in the eyes, committed to each other, and made the promise to stay faithful. And he lied, and he lied, and he lied, and he lied. And he let me go on loving him while he lied. And then a few months ago, another guy comes into my life, and for the first time in ages, I felt hopeful. I thought to myself that maybe I could actually move on and live my life. I wasn't in love with him, but he was the kind of man I thought I could fall in love with. We were exclusive for about a month. Before we made the decision to be exclusive, I told him everything that had happened with my first ex and told him that I could never be with another cheater. I wake up on New Year's Day to a text saying we're done. When I tried getting in touch, I found out he'd blocked me everywhere. Turns out, he met someone at a New Year's party and hooked up with her. Instead of telling me, he just blocked me everywhere and sent a lackey to message me a few weeks later with the real story and a half-assed apology. I want to be angry, and maybe a part of me is. But as I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking, what if it's me? What if I'm just not lovable? What if it's never going to happen for me? The thing is, I've been a pretty confident person. I went through bullshit as a kid, but I got through it and grew stronger. I'm pretty good looking. I've been told that I'm fun. I hold down a good job and make decent money. I also live my life according to my values. I've always put my family and partner first because that's just how I believed it should be done. And I thought that I would be prioritized in turn. I've lost most of my family because they'd rather have my stepsister's baby in their life than me. My friends have been fair weather for the most part, and I know that I'm a laughingstock in my friend group, as much as they pretend to pity me to my face. I feel the little spark I've always had fading. I don't chime in on conversations anymore. I've stopped putting on cute clothes when I go out. I don't plan anything, so I don't have anything to be disappointed about. Soon I'll be the same age as my mom was when she died. I never knew her, but I've always loved her, thinking of her watching over me. I don't remember the funeral, but it was one of those funerals where there wasn't a dry eye in the house. She lit up a room. People tell me she was a good woman. In my worst moments, I wonder what it would be like if I died right now. Would anyone cry? Would anyone care? Would anyone even come? Anyhow, sorry for writing a novella. Just not sure what to do anymore and who to talk to. If you read all this, thank you. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, it is not you. These people didn't cheat because of you. They didn't cheat because they thought less of you or that you were unlovable. No, they cheated because they are low character, lying, cheating, self-centered, snakes. Those adjectives say nothing about you. So stop thinking that way. Victims of infidelity want reasons for why people cheat on them. It turns out to be quite simple. There is something basically wrong with the person who committed the infidelity. It's never you, it's always them. Opinion number 2. Exactly, OP, it isn't your fault. Never think it is. Sometimes people just plain suck. People like that are just selfish, and sometimes you can't see through them. But take all of this as a learning experience and try to pick the red flags. Try therapy. It might help you with not just self-confidence, but in finding these red flags with more ease, without being paranoid with your next partner. It's okay if you want to take a break from dating too. I see you are skeptical about therapy, and I don't blame you. It takes time to find good therapists. Maybe when you are out of your parents' house, and maybe online therapy if there aren't good therapists in your town. Sorry that you have gone through all of this. You just happened to go out with a couple of assholes who haven't. Like you said about some of the other things in your life, it made you stronger, and this will also. Don't change or give up on your values. You will find the person for you, and it will be worth it. As for your sister-in-law, keep in mind she is with a cheater, and one day he will most likely cheat on her, and she will be raising a kid with a cheater for a father. Stay positive. Things will work out. You have a lot going for you, and you should always remember that. Opinion number 3. I would argue that Ben has already cheated on your stepsister when he spent so much time trying to get you to take him back. Your second ex was a complete child to not even man up enough to tell you what happened. Apart from the obvious flaws of being a cheater, And the fact that he knew this was a bigger trigger for you. What a truly weak person he was for the way he ended things. Your family not supporting you throughout your life. That really sucks on so many levels. It sounds like you had a crappy foundation of people who never truly treated you as they should have. Ben and X2 are both related to a friend group that is not supporting you as fully as they could with what has happened. This just means you need to welcome better people into your life in the future, but what they did is not your fault. The age of your mom, I really feel for you and how you are feeling, but you will come back stronger. This is all on them for their behavior. You did not deserve to be treated with so much disrespect and so cavalierly in all these relationships. This behavior is all theirs and is not a reflection of your true value. You need to find some activities that make you feel good about yourself. I think you should start expanding your social circle and find new people who truly care about you and start distancing from those who do not have your best interest at heart. The saying, "The best revenge is living well," really fits here. Your mom would be proud of you for staying strong and just being your best self. Honestly, I think your mom would be ashamed of your father's behavior, that he would not treat you with greater importance than he has, as his daughter, as her daughter, as a person, as a child, and as a woman. Does her picking a guy who was lacking as a father to you mean that she was less somehow? No, it doesn't. She was a good person and so are you. She loved you and you need to love yourself and see your own value. You are strong, you are caring, you are loyal, you have a moral code. You can and will find new people in your life who will respect these qualities and they will reciprocate them as well. This story is really quite upsetting. What I can say for OP is, there are so many people rooting for you. The majority of us empathize with you because we've invested in a relationship that didn't work out. You are not alone. You don't need someone that makes you question yourself. That's not love. Do you really want to be with someone who isn't trustworthy? It's a blessing that you found out about these guys. It gives you the opportunity to develop a relationship with someone who is worthy. Please take time for yourself and consider therapy. If therapy isn't an option, here are plenty of resources available online. Although this will require quite a bit of time and reflection, it will make you stronger, wiser, and happier. How about you guys? What do you guys think about this whole situation and what would your advice be for OP? Let's all discuss in the comments section below. I'm unsure if it's time to draw boundaries with my boyfriend and his young and pretty coworker who he got close to very quickly. Apologies for the length. I'm going to be very thorough, and also a lot has happened in a very short amount of time. First, some background and the good stuff. I have been best friends with my boyfriend since 2013. We even lived together during graduate school for 2 years before we started dating. We started dating in 2016 when we were roommates, so we've been together for about 2.5 years now and have lived together for a lot of that time. We did a brief stint of long distance when we got jobs in different locations after school. In January of this year, he moved states to be with me, and I still can't get over how amazing that was of him. We are now living together again in our own apartment, and we couldn't be happier. He is my best friend and absolutely the person I plan to spend the rest of my life with. He's smart, funny, an absolute sweetheart, and a romantic, and he makes me feel so loved every day. We have talked about our future many times, and I'm anticipating a proposal in the near future. Also, he has had many female friends during our time together, and this has never bothered me. I'm rarely the jealous type. He's hung out one-on-one with girls before and I had no complaints. There has been one girl I told him I was uncomfortable with, and he stopped hanging out with her, but that was for a lot of reasons and not just because she's a girl. So on to the recent issue. After moving to my state, he had to pass a couple of tests in our field before he could start working. He did so and was able to secure a job in early June. He likes his new job so far and generally likes and gets along with his coworkers, but he hadn't really made any real friends yet. He's hung out with my coworkers, sort of friends too, and likes them as well, but no one he would hang out with one-on-one. I know he is missing having a group of friends back in his home state where he moved from. About a month ago, maybe a little more, he started mentioning one coworker a lot. We'll call her Liz. At first, it was just in passing, "Oh, my coworker Liz said this or that." It also turns out Liz used to work with an organization that works closely with my organization, so she knows a lot of people that I work with and what's going on with my job and field of work. So it was a small world kind of thing. She would mention someone I knew or something about my job, and he would tell her he also knew that person because of me, that kind of thing. But he started talking about her more and more often. I'm talking probably every single day. Over for a few weeks he would have a story about Liz or something that she said, so I knew they were talking or hanging out at work a lot. He did say that Liz mentioned she wanted to meet me, and she has a fiance that she lives with. So that made me feel good. Nothing to worry about, and I was happy he was making a friend here. Liz actually lived nearby us in a temporary place because they were moving around for her fiancé's job. So a couple of weeks ago, he tells me that Liz suggested they start carpooling to work together. Their office is about 30 minutes away without traffic, but our city always has traffic, so it's more like 45 minutes each way most days. Honestly, this made me a little uncomfortable, since this meant they would be spending 1.5 hours alone together in the car every time they rode together. But I didn't say anything because they wouldn't be carpooling every day. Some days they work in the office and other days they work on projects around town, so this would only be days when they both go into the office. Besides, he only mentioned it in passing as an idea at first. A few days later, as he was headed out the door, he said, "Okay, I'm going to go pick up Liz and head into work." I was surprised because he never told me they decided to definitely start carpooling together, but it obviously wasn't a big deal. He has never mentioned it again, so as far as I know, that's the only day they've ridden together. It hasn't been an ongoing thing. I was fine with this. Things started intensifying quickly last week, though. As I mentioned, Liz and her fiancé were in a temporary place before, so they decided to start looking for a permanent apartment. My boyfriend casually mentioned to me one day last week that they were actually interested in our building and that they wanted to come see it the next day. This came out of left field to me. Our building is very nice. It's a luxury building in a good area downtown, but there are also tons of similar buildings in the area. But I figured they were just checking out all kinds of places, and ours was probably one of many on the list. So late last week, they came by our building for a tour. I actually saw them briefly on the elevator, and we met for the first time, but they were being given a tour by management, so we didn't hang out. Well, later that night, Liz texted my boyfriend that they decided to rent in our building. I honestly didn't know what to say because I wasn't thrilled. I felt like now they will definitely want to start carpooling together every day they can, and they will start becoming even closer. My boyfriend was obviously very happy about it when he told me. I just kind of asked if they were looking at any other places and why they weren't looking any closer to where she and my boyfriend work. And he said they just really liked this building and her fiancé works more closely to our area, so it works for them to live here. Obviously, there was nothing I could say, so I just said cool. Ever since then, I feel like they have already been talking more and more. They text and have called each other a couple of times. To be fair, as far as I know, it has all been either work or apartment related. But I also don't really see his phone and have no idea how much they actually talk. A couple of final things prompted me to write this post. Up until now, I wasn't thrilled about all of this but could deal with it. This weekend, we traveled to visit my family for the holiday weekend. Yesterday, during a family lunch, he got up and went into the other room with his phone for a few minutes. When he came back, I asked, "Where'd you go?" And he just said I was getting a phone call. Later, I asked who was calling him at lunch. He said it was Liz, with a few questions because they were moving in at the time. This slightly bothered me because I feel like if I hadn't asked, he wasn't planning to tell me it was Liz who called. He went back to our city last night while I am staying in my hometown with my family for a couple of extra days. While driving him to the airport, I got a random thought, so I asked, "You're just going to take an Uber back home, right?" He kind of hesitated and then said I was actually going to see if maybe Liz could pick me up, so I don't have to spend money on an Uber. Yet again, I felt like he never would have mentioned this to me if I hadn't asked. Also, we live close to the airport, so an Uber is not expensive, and he makes good money. I reminded him that Liz and her fiancé were moving that day and probably did not want to come pick him up at the airport, and he thought about it and agreed. He didn't end up asking her. I don't know what to do from here. On one hand, I am genuinely glad he's making a friend. There are no red flags so far. Things seem 100% platonic. Plus, she has a fiancé, so we could all be couple friends. On the other hand, he seems to be getting really close to her really quickly. He talks about her constantly. They are probably going to be riding together often, and I feel like he is starting to kind of hide some interactions with her from me. Is it time to set boundaries? If so, what would reasonable boundaries even be? Is carpooling together too much? Is it okay for them to hang out alone together outside of work? I have no idea, and I've never been in this situation before. I don't know how to talk to him about this. I just feel like we need to have a talk now that she is living in our building, but maybe I should wait and see if things escalate. TLDR, my boyfriend has become fast friends with a female coworker. She and her fiancé are now moving into our apartment building, and my boyfriend is seeing and talking to her more and more. I don't know if it's time to set boundaries or if I'm getting ahead of myself. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, have them over for dinner or something. I would have done this a long time ago when he started talking about her a lot, especially if they were going to carpool and move into your apt complex. Something longer than just saying hi, see what she's like and her fiancé is like. See how everyone interacts with each other. You'll know then for sure. If it's a bad situation, it'll be super weird and obvious. Then I would talk to him if it is a bad situation. Tell him all of what you're uncomfortable with. Just know that moving is hard and you make new friends with anyone you connect with. Work is a main place to make friends. It could be just fine. The problem now is she lives in your apt complex, so they're 100% going to get closer and you might get stuck hearing about her no matter which way this all plays out. He should respect you enough to back off a little with her if you express that you're uncomfortable. That's respect in a relationship. If you introduce him to more people, it may help. Where OP replies, I like this idea. I definitely want to meet both of them and get to know them, especially now that we're neighbors. I really don't think it's anything bad yet. I think he's genuinely happy to have a friend. But it's also borderline becoming a situation where things could get inappropriate or weird. I want to talk to him without discouraging him from making friends, so it's tough. Opinion number 2 says, the biggest concern to me is that they haven't gotten you and Liz's fiancé together for a double date or something where you all could meet. It sounds like you and Liz have a lot of common work contact and would have things to talk about at the very least. You met her while her and her fiancé were viewing the building. That's super awkward, and at the best, your BF dropped the social ball here. At worst, he's avoiding you and Liz spending time together. Sure, Liz is his friend, they work together and all that jazz, and he doesn't have to include you with everything, but right now he's including you on practically nothing. That would make me worried. I think you need to talk to him about how you're feeling. Like, don't go into it talking about boundaries or insinuating that more is going on between them than just friends, but rather how you've been feeling about the situation. It's perfectly fine to have these feelings and to let him know, and it's much better than letting these feelings boil and waiting on something bad to happen. He's your partner. He deserves to know if something is upsetting you, and that's really the only way you two can figure out a way forward that you're both comfortable with. Where OP replies, it was definitely very awkward. I do think it was more my boyfriend dropping the ball. He had just told me the day before that they wanted to see our place. They actually were initially going to come over to our apartment that night but didn't end up having time. Thanks for your reply. I agree with your take. Opinion number 3 says, I have actually been on the opposite end of this. I was the girl who became super good friends with a guy in a relationship. I started med school and found a new group of friends. 4 guys and 3 girls. One of the guys was in a relationship of about 5 years. We all spent so much time together because we were on campus a lot and studying a lot. I honestly know for a fact that this guy did not at all have any male intent with our friendship. He was extremely committed to his girlfriend and talked about her often. We honestly just got along really freaking well and became really close over time. I did not have a boyfriend when we first became friends, but I did get a boyfriend a few months into the friendship. I had done a lot of the things you are detailing. Picked him up from the airport, texted a bunch, phone calls every once in a while, sending each other memes on social media. And again, neither of us ever had a romantic intention whatsoever, and it never crossed any lines. If my current BF had a friend like this and you told me that their friendship was exactly the same as mine and my med school friends, I would be comfortable with it. Because my intentions were benign as well, I wanted to make sure it was known to his girlfriend that our friendship was nothing to be concerned about. I recognized that I would be skeptical if I were in her shoes, and since I cared a lot about my friend, I cared a lot about his relationship and did not want to mess it up in any way. I also cared enough about the friendship that I realized making his GF uncomfortable could result in her telling him to discontinue the friendship. So I would purposefully do things to send the message to her that this friendship wasn't a threat. I insisted on meeting her and got her phone number so that I could be in contact with her as well, or include her in plans, rather than just inviting my guy friend to some party and then telling him to tell his GF. I made sure I brought my boyfriend along to plans with them so that she could see I was happily in a relationship. Of course, I don't know you guys, so the scenario you are detailing could be shady business, but I am giving you my experience to show that it is quite possible that it is innocent. However, even if it is innocent, it doesn't mean you shouldn't feel like you have the right to be uncomfortable. And if your boyfriend cares about you, he will have no issues whatsoever cutting back on whatever actions are making you uncomfortable. It doesn't make you crazy or jealous or any of those terms that us females fear being branded. It makes you a normal human being who cares about her relationship and her boyfriend and doesn't want their relationship put in a vulnerable situation. Good luck. Where OP replies, thanks for your reply. I appreciate this perspective. I actually do think this is exactly how it is right now, that they get along really well and she just happens to be a woman. I definitely don't think there is anything actually shady going on. but the situation still feels uncomfortable. I think I would feel better if, like you mentioned, I was included in more things or I got to know her better personally, which hopefully will happen now that we're neighbors. And to her credit, like I mentioned in the post, my boyfriend did tell me early on that she wanted to meet me and for us all to get together. That just hasn't happened yet. Update. TLDR of original, my boyfriend has become fast friends with a female coworker. She and her fiancé are now moving into our apartment building, and my boyfriend is seeing and talking to her more and more. I don't know if it's time to set boundaries or if I'm getting ahead of myself. A lot has happened since my last post, and I got some good advice there, so I wanted to post an update. After I made the last post, I came home from the trip with my family a couple of days later. I told my boyfriend that I wanted to talk to him about something, and I brought up his friendship with Liz. I basically brought up all of my concerns from the post. I told him that I didn't want to discourage him from having a friend, but I also felt like they were talking quite a lot and spending a lot of time together, and that it was starting to make me feel uncomfortable. My boyfriend took it really well. He immediately reassured me that he only saw her as a friend and that he hadn't even realized how it could look to me. When I brought up how I felt like he wasn't forthcoming with information, he said that was 100% unintentional. He then immediately asked what he could do going forward to make me feel more comfortable. He offered to stop carpooling with her and to cut down on contact with her except for work-related stuff. I told him I didn't have a problem with the carpooling because financially it does make sense, but maybe he could try to text and call her outside of work a little bit less. I also told him I would really love to meet her and her fiancé, and he enthusiastically agreed. He set up a hangout for the following weekend. The two of us and Liz and her fiancé all went out for drinks at a bar by our building. It was actually really fun. It turns out we all have a ton in common. Liz and I do very similar work, and we all have common nerdy interests. It was a little awkward at first, as meeting new people often is, but once we all got comfortable, we had a blast. From there, we have all become fast friends, and Liz and I have developed our own separate friendship too. We text often, go over to each other's places for dinner sometimes, and hang out on weekends. I can honestly say I really like Liz as a person and trust her 100%. I no longer have a problem with her friendship with my boyfriend at all. They do still carpool sometimes, but they've never hung out alone outside of work. It's always the four of us. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Finally, I have a separate, but slightly related, update. My boyfriend is now my fiancé. Less than a month after I made my last post, he took me out for a really beautiful and romantic dinner. When we came home, our apartment was covered in roses and candles. I was so shocked I could barely move as he got down on one knee and proposed. I said yes and then cried for about 2 hours as we called all of our friends and family. It was absolutely perfect, and we are getting married next year. It turns out that Liz actually helped him plan the proposal, and that was part of why they were talking a lot too. Since she lives in our building now, he had all of the flowers, candles, champagne, and accessories shipped to her and kept at her place until he was ready for them. He even had her hold onto the ring the week before he did it. After he proposed, she came upstairs and took photos for us and cried with us. That was the moment I realized what a great friend she is to both of us. So communication saves the day again. We're all great friends now, and Liz and I have regular girls' nights to plan our weddings together. TLDR, I talked to my boyfriend and he introduced me to Liz and her fiancé right away. We're all great friends now and I'm no longer uncomfortable, but I am engaged. The first was a very serious relationship.